tonight,
Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hey, Lionel.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Lionel.
Hey, George.
Hey, Lionel.
Hey, Boy Wonder.
Hey, Overlord.
Yeah. Hey, moderately agitated mailboy.
Yes, Evel Overlord. What do you wish?
Can you tell me if this is the first podcast since the last podcast?
I can say absolutely positively without an ounce of doubt, maybe.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Sounds like everything's working perfectly then.
It's just like normal, right?
Par for the course on the old AML.
Yeah, par for the old Carson, the old AML.
We're moderately, adequately prepared.
Right here on the 48th floor of the Mildred A. McCracken building in downtown Busted Knuckle, Kentucky.
Coming live from the Joe Cummings studio.
Exactly. In the Stuart Sterling, what was it?
The Stuart L. Sterling
building.
It is. That's right. That's what it is now. It's the Stuart L. Sterling building. Yeah, poor old Mildred got the heave-ho.
Yeah, Mildred did come up with a sponsorship.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's
formerly the McCracken building.
Yes. Formerly the McCracken building.
The building formerly known as McCracken.
Yeah, formerly the McCracken building. We picked it up and we moved it 2 feet to the right and then said, there, it's the Stuart L. Sterling building.
Yeah. That's right.
His name is always a mouthful. Stuart L. Sterling. In the Joe Cummings studio. All right, so tonight, today, or whenever you're listening to it, if you're Mike Wachowski, you might be listening to it in the afternoon or the evening or whenever, or you might be, if you're Wachowski, little Mike, you're probably listening to it while you're walking around Disney World. That guy's always down at Disney World.
Can you blame him?
No, I don't blame him at all. I enjoy it.
I blame him a little bit.
I enjoy I enjoy visiting with the mouse.
Yes.
Who doesn't enjoy the mouse? Anyways, we're going to, this is actually a suggestion of the Boy Wonder. Do you remember when you suggested this, George?
I do recall, actually.
Yes, because we're going to talk to a fellow named Lorne James, who owns Otter Valley Railroad or Railway?
I believe it's Railroad.
What is all that noise, George?
I'm just knocking crap on the floor.
Yeah, what are you doing? Sit still. Just sit still.
You're worse than Pinellas.
What's that?
So he's worse than Pinellas.
He is worse than Pinellas. Everybody's. Anyways, there's a you know that song Tilsonburg.
Tilsonburg, my back still aches when I hear that word. Way down southern Ontario. Stompin' Tom Connors, one of his classic tunes.
Stompin' Tom Connors.
Tilsonburg,
my back still hurts when I hear that word. I bet you everybody's really enjoying our singing.
He says you want to work in the tobacco fields of Tilsonburg. Tilsonburg. My back still aches when I hear that word.
All right, so we're going to interview a guy named Lorne James who owns a very successful model railroad hobby shop in Tilsonburg, Ontario. It's an interesting story. We've been screwing around here for 3.5 minutes. Why don't we just get him in the studio and start talking to him?
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, somebody go get him.
It's George's idea.
That's
all
true.
Right, I'll go get him. Hold on.
Watch your head.
I gotta get down. I don't want to bang my dome.
Yeah, ding your dome.
Don't
ding my dome.
Don't ding the dome.
Oh, my luck could be a bang for sure.
Yeah. And George.
Yes.
Can you tell me you have a lot to tell me? It's got to span at least 20 minutes, not 3.
Well, maybe I wasn't done yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, we have other matters to attend to.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Lauren, you can come into the green room now.
All right. Can you hear me, guys?
Did you eat the shrimp?
No, we can't hear you at all.
Oh, so it was a good interview while it lasted.
Yeah.
So do you want me to go with the email address?
Right, yeah. Right, my email ad.
Yeah.
If you got any questions for a future episode with Lauren,
yeah.
please contact us at Mother's Life. It's Mother's Life with 1 L.
Like Lorne.
Lauren.
Not 2 L's. Like Valley.
There
Boom.
you go.
Boom. I remember that, George.
All right.
Remember
all right, Lionel, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. You could hear
We're
you
just
before.
shaking your goalie, buddy.
I I don't know. I've been doing these Zoom things, and half the time they work, they don't work, so I just gave up.
Oh, this is working great. You sound perfect. What did you get a new headset?
I got the one from the Monitor's Life, and I got the sticker on it right now too.
Oh, you got the sticker on it too. Way to go! Nice job. Nice job. All right.
Somebody's going all in.
Somebody has gone all in. They've got the sticker. They got the whole 9 yards. Okay.
And I put 2 stickers up. And I put 2 stickers up at the shop for you guys too.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
You're the best. All right. Well, when we tried to do that, we should tell everybody that we tried to do this before, but his Lorne's audio wasn't very good, and we here strive. We here at the old AML network strive for top quality in everything. And someday, boy,
we might get there.
Well, someday when we get there. Hey, Lorne, I'm just looking at your shop. You got 80 Google reviews. It's Otter Valley Railroad at 30. This is Bruce. This is crazy. Coincidence or not, you decide. It's at 37 Tilson Street in Tilsonburg. That's crazy. What a coincidence. What are the chances of a Tilson Street being in Tilsonburg?
There's also a Tilson Ave, too.
Oh, there's a Tilson Ave as well. And it's Unit E. How many square feet you got in that shop there, buddy?
3650.
3,650 square feet.
Good sized shop for a model railroad, sir.
And it's exclusively model railroad, is it not?
Yeah, my brother-in-law's had me bring a little bit of plastics and RC in, but it's 99% trains.
Okay. And is your brother-in-law involved in the shop?
He just helps me a little bit with the RC stuff every so often.
Okay. So if you didn't bring the RC stuff in, you wouldn't need him to help you.
I think I bring. I think I bring it in so that way he gets the family price. I'm pretty sure.
There you go. Okay, all right. And I see here on Google, you've got 80 Google reviews and you got a 4.7 rating. So that's a quality shop you got right there. So we want to know by the end of this interview, Lorne, we want to know everything there is to know about Otter Valley Railroad and Lorne James. So do you remember all the questions we asked you last time?
Yep. How I started, how it evolved, my background.
Yeah. So we're gonna do
what I model. Oh yeah.
I don't think we got to that, did we? All right. So let's. We
got sidetracked on other stuff.
Yeah, we got sidetracked on other stuff because you guys.
Can we kind of work our way backwards?
I think we should. We'll start. You know what?
Can I ask a question? Because I believe that this is your newest location. You relocated within the last year or so to where you are now?
Yeah, originally we were on the farm, which was just southeast of Elmer. So our home farm, and Lionel will say, what's home farm mean? So I was the 5th generation to live on the farm. At one time, the family had about 1,200 acres. Through the years, we pared back land, sold off land, severed land, and such. At the end, my grandparents, my father, and my mother, we had about just under 300 acres. So that's why it's called the home farm, and the road's named after us too. So originally the shop was on the home farm, and then last year my dad wanted to retire, so I bought him out and then relocated.
Okay. And so that you're just now recently in this shop in Tilsonburg. We got to tell everybody where Tilsonburg is. How far west of Toronto is Tilsonburg?
It is an hour and 40 minutes west of Toronto, and it's 45 minutes southeast of London.
All right, so that's like halfway between Toronto and Detroit, roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
Give or take.
Yeah. Like I mean, if we have a fellow that's listened, so we have a couple of people that listen to us in Chile. I think it's Chile. I think a lot of North Americans say Chile, but I think it's Chile. I'm going to say it that way, anyways. We have one avid listener in Santiago, and so they need to know we'll just deal in the big cities. Toronto. It's halfway between Toronto and Detroit. Motown, and Detroit is right across the river from Windsor, Ontario. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that
correct? It's about a mile north of Windsor.
Yeah, Windsor, south of Detroit. Okay, Lorne. So the home farm. So how did you start this hobby shop? That's an interesting story to begin with. So you started when you were 5 or something?
So I'm 34 now, Lionel. So I've been doing trains for just over 17 years. So in 2003, I wanted to kind of just dabble as an entrepreneur. But I was a minor, so my parents had to sign the paperwork to get business license and proprietorship and all that jazz. So mostly that just started out of, I started trains when I was 6. I was kind of interested in just doing a little bit of, special order, mail order, and, just kind of helping some of the local guys out. And, kind of dabbling. I had some small businesses before this when I was a kid, whether it was stuff I sold on the farm or other services I done. So it was more or less, let's try something and see what goes.
And so then you just started going to shows and stuff like that. At 17, you started doing this.
Yeah. I started at 17, my parents. We started doing shows about a year later. We started doing shows when I was going to my first year of business school. And then we just kind of, did the shows, met people, build the base up, start from the ground, the funny saying in this business is you start with a lot of money to make a little bit of money. I decided to start with a little bit of money and incrementally grow and, keep parlaying that year over year.
That sounds like pretty much the same deal as Stephen Atwell out there in Independence, Missouri with his business, Midwest Model Railroad. Am I allowed to talk about other hobby shops while I'm talking to you?
I'm respectful of other shops, so it's good.
Okay. Do you sell much? Okay, so this is your shop is in Southern Ontario. It's in Canada. It's a Canadian shop. Do you sell much across the border?
We sell across the border daily. We ship to Europe daily. Furthest west of the world we've ever shipped to, Russia. Furthest north we've ever shipped to, Alaska. Furthest south we've ever shipped to, Peru. We've shipped into South America, South Africa, Europe daily, United States daily multiple times, almost every province every day. Generally, domestically, it's Ontario and Quebec where that's where the bulk of the population is, but a lot of BC, a lot of people who have moved out of Ontario that have went to, your Saskatchewans and your Albertas, that I've met through the years, they continue to buy off us, whether it's a weekly or bi-weekly or once a month basis. So, I've been captivating and growing customers. I know you talked about my Google review. I mean, I got over 150 reviews on our Facebook page with a 4.9, constantly adding new people there, actively engaging. I don't want to say I'm pushing, but I make it known that I'm here and I'm aggressively going after your business. So,
well, let's okay. Before we go on, George.
Yes.
Could you move your microphone away from your mouth just like a 64th of an inch? Because
sorry,
we can hear you groaning and breathing and.
Oh, I do apologize.
No need to apologize. You've just aged well beyond your years.
No, what you're trying to say is I've aged well beyond my best before date.
Go easy on him, Lionel. He had a hard week moving those food boxes, right, George? The food box.
You know it.
Especially my food box that never showed up that my wife wants to kill the company now.
All right, what are we talking about here? We got people listening. What food boxes are we talking about?
All right, so one of the biggest things, and I haven't really looked into whether this is a big thing in the U.S. or not, but I'm sure that it's the same. But one of the big things that the courier companies are doing now, and we're all doing it, is we're delivering food. Basically, there's different meal prep services you can sign up online and all this other stuff, and they'll send you essentially vacuum packed food. Usually it's 3 or 4 meals for 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, whatever. And you can order this stuff every week, and they'll ship it right to your door, and it's all pre-portioned, ready to go. They give you the recipes, and basically you just cook it, and that's it. But we don't move them every day, but I would say that between like Monday and Wednesday are usually our meal delivery days. We move probably, I'm going to say 70% of our flow is food.
Really? Wow.
Yep. And it's expensive too.
Yeah.
We tried it. My wife and I tried it. And I mean, we had a voucher from a customer of mine, which was really generous of them. But, we ordered $120 worth of food and it came in a box.
Yeah.
It was pretty radical.
There's food in a box. See, I'd be stuck at, well, it's not pizza.
Yeah, you'd be stuck at the part where you have to make it when it gets to your door.
No, I'd be stuck in the part where it's in a box. If it's not pizza, I don't get it.
Honestly, Lionel, it's like a big trend. Like, it's a generation now that likes the food boxes. I mean, it was started by the Dragon's Den in Canada, Shark Tank in the United States, and it's like there's like multiple companies, like George will tell you, like there's at least 5 or 6 domestically in Canada that's doing it. It's quite impressive, but
we only deal with 2, but there's a lot around.
But when your food box doesn't come and your wife goes, how are we going to eat? You might have to question the concept of a food box.
You can go to the grocery store and you can buy food in a box as well.
Exactly.
I know.
Here's a little insider information you guys probably don't know. So every week there are we move probably thousands of food boxes, but every week there are always people who don't get them, and it isn't because they don't come on the truck. It's because they're shipped. It's one day, one overnight shipping from whatever major city they're coming from. So, like for instance, everything goes through Ottawa, is packaged in Toronto the night before. They put it on the truck, and away it goes, and we get it in the morning. It comes in its own refrigerated truck and everything like that. But when it comes off the truck, if they haven't packed it right, and the boxes have collapsed or the ice packs have broken or something like that, like in the summertime, we had piles and piles and piles of food boxes in the shop that were broken or that have wasted away, and like they must be losing millions. I don't get it. But the waste is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest gripe with it.
Well, which would lead me to the way my mind thinks. Well, if the waste is incredible and they're still making a profit, then that would mean the food is really cheap. And
it must be.
And if the food is really cheap, that means it's probably not going on a fork and into my mouth.
That's a good policy.
Yeah. But we digress, Bruce.
We're getting a little off topic, but
we're digressing.
Yeah, exactly.
So this isn't the AML cooking show.
Nah, not at all.
Oh, okay.
There's an idea though.
Yeah, but yeah. So
you'd have to get Pinellas and Clem and our buddy at Sugar Fire in on that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's a whole different podcast altogether. Let's get back to this, because if we do this right, this is going to be a really interesting interview, because Lorne is a really interesting guy, because he's done a lot of really interesting things in the model railroad hobby. So we want to make sure we ask all the right questions and get all the answers. We don't want to leave any stone unturned. And he's a farmer, so he knows about being out in the field, picking stones and stuff like that. Yet it's a job you have to do if you own a farm. So you said something really interesting. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you, so how many orders a day do you ship out, do you think?
Bad day, 10. Crazy day, 200.
Okay, on average then.
40 to 50.
Okay. And how do people find you from around the world? How does a guy in South Africa or Russia all of a sudden start ordering from Otter Valley Railroad in Tillsonburg, Ontario? Tillsonburg.
He says you want to work in the tobacco fields of Tillsonburg. My back still aches when I hear that word. Well, he said, I'll only give you $7 a day, but if you're any good, you get a raise in pay. Your bed's already on the bunkhouse floor. If it gets a little chilly, you can close the door in Tillsonburg. My back still aches when I hear that word.
Could be as simple as looking for an item that's out of stock. Could be as simple as looking for an item that is exclusive to us, and we've done many exclusive projects. Could be an item that we could be one of the biggest buyers in the world of. It could be Canadian content, or it could be something that sold out quick and we have a handful left. Honestly, sometimes the items don't make sense where I'm shipping to, and I just say, they paid, they got there, I'm happy, I'm good, let's keep moving.
Do you have any specific way that you're trying to get customers to find you?
So I have a pretty strong Facebook presence. I have a pretty large mailing list. I have a small YouTube channel, but I don't aggressively use it, but it's part of my plan for the next year. I was doing some of the train show circuit until current environment. A lot of referrals, a lot of word of mouth, subliminal message sometime in forums, whatever has to be done, I try to reach the customer.
Yeah, subliminal message. I'm just really impressed. Lorne, you're going to have to be patient with me, because basically I'm really impressed with what you've done here, because how much walk-in traffic do you get? Like, is most of your business online?
So yesterday, Saturday, was a pretty decent day in the shop. We had 45 people in the shop yesterday.
Okay. And how far away from where about do they come from all over? Or is it mostly because Tillsonburg, for those who don't know, is a relatively small town in farm country in southern Ontario. So I'm wondering, where do these people come from?
So before COVID, we would have a minimum of 4 to 5 Americans that would pass through. They'd pop in. Domestically in Canada, anybody as far as Sarnia, we could have them during the week or on the weekend. Many times during the week, we have people as far away as Windsor. So that corridor, 401, 403 corridor, or 402 corridor. We had a couple all the way from Niagara-on-the-Lake on Saturday. We had 2 guys from Ottawa that got up at 2 in the morning and they're like, we made this pilgrimage. We're here. We're going to pillage. Had some Peterborough guys. Like we've turned ourselves into an unbelievably popular destination. We've really changed the dynamic in the shop. You walk in and you're like, wow, there's that much glass. There's that much on display. There's just, we got a rail stream video live we watch. We got, you name it on the shelf. We have, sometimes I have an estate, sometimes I have 2 estates in stock. Some of the guys are like, whoa, what's that in the back? It's like, a couple of my girls are in the back all the time, packing up parcels. The taper's going. We really try to make it the place. And the other thing, too, is if Ontario Southland's in town, switching out the yard in Tillsonburg, that's another draw. I was getting guys from Germany coming to our shop that were going to see Ontario Southland, then coming to Otter Valley.
And Ontario Southland is?
That's the short line that runs from Tillsonburg to Ingersoll and Woodstock to St. Thomas.
So what do you think it was that made you want to start selling model railroad stuff when you were 17?
Well, I was a hobbyist with my dad. So we started out with a 4x8 layout. I got that in grade 2, so that I was 8. We went from there into having a 24 by 18 foot room. And you know what? I was like, I can get a business license. I can make a couple calls. I don't care. I'm a minor. I'm not afraid. And it just, started the ball rolling and, did it.
And now you got this really strong business going. You're obviously the other you're the polar opposite of people going, woe is me. Hobby shops are dying. You're embracing the new world and making your hobby shop go because it's a destination, and plus you're finding customers all over the world.
Like yesterday, we spent one of my staff that works for me, and I considered him a brother and a good friend. Him and I spent 45 minutes doing Facebook Live, doing personal shoppers for people around the world, just to captivate them and get business. And in that 45 minutes, we did $6,000 in sales. I mean, that's almost New York class, like upper class, the working girl rates, which is fantastic.
That's one way to compare it. So let's run that past me again. What were you doing on Facebook Live?
We were doing live shopping. Guys were looking at stuff that we had either in our glass or recent arrivals.
Time out here. This sounds revolutionary to me. Does it not to you, George and Bruce?
I'd say so.
George, it's the new way. This is how we're going to survive the next 18 months.
Bruce is on mute.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on mute.
That's par for the course.
You know what? Yeah. I'm going to start that shirt. I'm starting that shirt. That shirt.
We need to.
Go for it. Go for it, man.
I'm a little surprised you haven't already.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, I got nothing to do.
Yeah.
No, what are you going to worry about?
Yeah, you got the Jenkins shirt and the I'm on mute shirt today.
Okay, so let's. Am I imagining this correctly? You're on Facebook Live, walking around showing people what's in the store, and then people would comment or something on your little along the side and say, "I'll buy this" or "I'll buy that."
So we had 2 mobile devices. Steve was running his iPhone, which was doing the live stream. I had a tablet in front of me that was answering direct messages, and my 2 girls were taking phone calls for people seeing stuff on the video and giving them their credit card on the spot, all in the span of about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, I'm just blown away by this.
That is absolutely incredible.
That is, see, now this is good that your micro. Is this the first time you've ever done this?
No, it's the 3rd time.
When did you start?
I did it 2 weeks ago.
So since we screwed up the first interview, this is a good thing. See, that's why I said your audio wasn't any good and we had to do it again.
It's a win-win plan.
It's because I didn't have this A Modeler's Life headset I'm wearing that's giving me this ultra power, though.
Exactly. So,
but see, this is the thing that's so cool about everyone having to adapt because of the times that we're in. Like, this wouldn't have even been an afterthought 5 months ago or a year ago if this wasn't, like this has all been spurred on by everything going on. So people have to adapt to run their businesses in a new way. So like all these creative ideas are coming out of the woodwork.
How did you get this idea? Did somebody else? Did you see somebody else do it somewhere else? Which is fine. Like it doesn't. Not every idea has to be original. Did you see it being done, or did you just sit bolt upright in bed one night and go, "Hey, what if we did this?"
So my wife and I, we go to a shop just outside of Port Rowan, out Long Point, Turkey Point area called the Barntique, and she has like an artisan shop. Her business is actually in an old wooden barn. And she was talking about making changes and not being able to do her Christmas show. And she's like, you know what? For the following week before Christmas and the week prior, you can book me for 30 minutes and I'll walk around the store and be your virtual shopper, handpick your artisan gifts and ship it to you. And I'm like, I'm crazy enough. I'll just go on live and I'll just start selling. And if people want to give me money, it's fantastic. Worst case scenario, I get a couple people that, make comments and make complaints. Oh, well. Now it's going to be a Saturday regular thing. And like I told my girls, we're going to have lunchtime Friday where the girls will be your personal shopper for an hour. And then every Saturday, we're going to do an hour or two like this every Saturday.
What a fabulous idea.
That is a fabulous idea.
Yeah. It's a fabulous idea. Are you on mute, Bruce?
Yes, because I got a dog barking.
Oh, okay. No, that's all right.
He's quiet now, but yes, it's a brilliant idea. It's an absolutely brilliant idea. Like, hey, here's what's in the store. You want to buy it? Let me know, and we'll pull it off the shelf right now.
Well, I think you're going to be one of those guys that. And George, can you help me explain this to George or to Lorne?
Sure.
Lorne, I sense over the years you'll be on the show several times, but I also sense you're going to be one of those guys that irritates the crap out of me and entertains me at the same time. I think George can explain that to you because basically that's what George does. He irritates me and entertains me at the same time.
The way that I'd say to you, Lorne, that's about the best case scenario for anybody on the old AML.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're right. You're right where you want to be. Put it that way.
How about this, Lionel? I'll use buzzwords and words that you question the meaning, and I have to explain to you. That's how we know we're on the same page.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. Right away.
Now he's got it.
Now he got it.
He's
got it real quick. He's one of the.
You know what it is? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is friggin' brilliant. Like, what a brilliant idea to have a guy walking around the shop, and people all over the world can be watching him walk around the shop, and they're shopping with him as he's doing it live. That is absolutely brilliant. What a cool idea. I love doing that. This podcast, I mean, let's face it, anybody else other than me should be doing it. But I mean, what a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. For those who haven't seen your live sales pitch, it's kind of like watching the shopping channel. It's the Otter Valley channel. But now, are you pushing the latest and greatest thing you've just got in, or are you just saying, I've got a selection of Intermount wheels and Katie couplers here. What do you need, or what exactly is your focus?
Whatever I think I can get money out of that day's people's hands. So I look at what the trend line is for the week. So certain items are selling, I might flavor that. If I got a couple one-off rare items or something that I want to kind of aggressively push out the door, like, hey, push the fish, it's going to turn, the old restaurant saying, I'll do that. I mean, we spent 25 minutes looking at estate items that sat dormant for 2 months in the shop because all the walk-in guys picked through it. In a matter of 20 minutes, I had 25 pieces out of that estate sold.
Yeah, I got to get on that. I've seen a few things that I want.
And so then you're like, okay, let's go over the glass cases. And then, right after we finished the stream, my friend Steve and I were like, Lauren, you got to buy another set of glass cases. I'm like, I was just thinking another 20 feet of glass is our answer. So we're actually looking to add 20 feet of consecutive glass cases in the store.
Nice.
How much does one of those glass cases cost?
Depends how much I can get it for. It all depends of who's hurting and who's not. If I got to buy it brand new, it's stupid. If I can find it secondhand or through a liquidator, which I'm backdooring right now, it could be Low end 150, high end 500 a case.
Okay. And a case is usually 20 feet long, is it? Standard or?
It's 48 inches.
48 inches long, and then you just keep putting them side by side.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see them here. Okay. Man, oh man. You know what? You guys got to help me with this because we're gonna have fun talking to Lorne because you got a good personality and you're just a fun. You don't. The thing of it is too. I sense that you don't talk down to your customers. You treat your customers as equals.
The general rule with me is I'm fair. I'm calm. If you screw me on an order, I'll be okay. You screw me twice, might be not in a good mood. You screw me 3 times, I don't want to see you.
Right. Well,
but that's a business situation, Lionel. Every business is like that. I remember going to a train show when I was young, and a guy told me to go F myself. 30 minutes later, no lie, I got $200 out of him, and I'm happy. I didn't care he swore at me. I won that day.
Right. Yeah. You don't happen to know a guy named Ken Patterson, do you?
I know Kenny.
You have a lot of the same qualities. And I love Kenny. I love the dude. We call him the dude. I love Kenny. Actually, I'm going to be on his show this Saturday, by the way, you kids. He called me up. He called me up again, George.
George,
Yeah, after George and I visited Lex Parker, we were driving down the QEW, which is the main road between Buffalo and Toronto, and Buffalo, New York, Western New York. Buffalo, go Bills. And I think they're 6-2 now.
They won today.
Yeah, I know. They beat the New England Patriots. That's an unusual situation.
Barely. They barely won.
Well, it's still a W.
A win's a win.
A W is a W. There's no room on the scorecard for notes. Par is a par. So me and George were driving down the QEW, and our buddy Ken Patterson called me, but he called me again today or yesterday there, George. And
did you know?
Yeah, he wants me to be on the show this Saturday. So you know what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to make sure I mention Otter Valley Railroad.
And if Ken's looking for some new people to bring on the show, I've got numerous custom runs or stuff that I'm working on that would add different variety to a show. So if Ken wants to connect, definitely pass my information on to him, Lionel.
I will make sure I mention you. So now I got 3 favorite hobby stores. I'm good friends with Stephen Atwell. That's another he owns Midwest Model Railroad in Independence, Missouri. Well, more about that a little later. I know Chris Brimley, who is with Exact Rail, and he runs trainlife.com. And now we've got Lauren James, who runs Otter Valley. There's 3 really solid businesses, guys. And these are all stores that have really come to fruition. Now, I understand you've been doing it for a long time, Lauren, but you've just moved into this location, 3,600 square feet. And I bet you're feeling like you're running out of room already, are you?
My lease has 2 more years, and I'm already thinking about a new building and a minimum of 5,000 square foot already.
Really, again, eh? Seems like you just got there.
Well, George, I do the pallet program. You see the pictures. I don't bring just nothing. I bring pallets in.
Oh, I know. This is funny how time flies,
Yeah, I was looking at that. You bring in pallets of stuff, eh?
Oh, yeah.
That's very cool.
Economies of scale, Lionel. That's how this industry is going to survive. Economies of scale.
Yeah, George, I can see that you're talking to Dave Abelies right now. Just stop it, okay?
Okay.
We're doing this. You can talk to Dave later. Either you know what? Either continue to stop talking to Dave, or send him a message to tell him to come on the show, because I'm sure he'd be interested to hear this. So there's your 2 choices, and I'm turning it off. I'm not going to look at it anymore. So you buy pallets of stuff. Like, who would you buy it? What did you recently buy a pallet of stuff of?
So we had 3.5 pallets of Rapido LRC cars that came in the 1st of September. I have less than a quarter of pallet left.
Is this hobby just going nuts, Lorne? Is this what I'm in? I'm starting to envision this. See, I've always said, now I'm sure you've listened to every podcast of a modeler's life, and some of them twice, but I've been saying for a while now that this hobby is going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo. And is that what you're?
I wouldn't say it.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't say that, Lionel. So I look at things more from an analytical point of view. Certain products, certain railroads, and certain lines always aggressively sell well. Via rail is notorious that if it's good via content, you can sell it every day, no matter what, no matter when.
Right.
And then I think the fact a guy like Jason Schrum plugging it and pushing it out, it's, he's noted for good quality stuff, and people are just dying to get their hands on all this LRC stuff.
So you don't think the hobby's exploding?
So in that,
is that what you're saying?
You have to understand the hobby's costs are increasing faster than most people's disposable income. So that's a challenge, okay? However, you are seeing guys that are doing more shelf layouts, that are getting past the collection point of view and actually either joining a club or starting smaller layouts. I've got at least 20 people in my tight faction that are under 40, and we all model. Years ago, that was uncommon. You had to have, X amount of gray hair and mid-50s, to get into trains, It's starting to come on younger, but there's always going to be money issues when it comes to it. I don't see the hobby massively growing. I mean, RC hobby years ago exploded, and now it's kind of come back. I think there's different ways that this hobby grows. Some of it is people are just rail fans. They don't do trains, and they finally come to doing model trains. So I don't think the hobby is growing exponentially. And the other thing, too, is I'm growing, but there's also hobby shops closing. So I'm also picking up that market share sometimes by the fact that people aren't, renewing hobby shops, or there's not new hobby shops coming on.
Okay. Mr. Sunshine.
I mean, that's a fair statement, though. It's just a different outlook.
Mr. Sunshine here. So is the hobby dying? Is that what you're saying? Hard-hitting questions here, Lorne.
I would say it's incrementally growing.
Okay.
No, Lionel, it's a fair question. I'm seeing lots of new Canadians actually picking up trains. And they didn't have trains when they were a kid. They've immigrated from other countries. I'm seeing that as a new demographic, at least domestically in Ontario. I've been seeing a lot of father-sons getting into trains where I'm like, so I'm shipping trains to the father, and it's HO&N. It's like, you sure you want both scales? Oh, yeah. The N's for my son. We're going to combine and share freight. Okay, cool. All right. See you on the next order.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm seeing different trends like that. Are we going to see a revolution and there's going to be more hobby shops pop up? No. Are you going to see different players that are taking on the next skills and next sales channels, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's embracing social media, whether it's being engaging or interacting? Yes. And if you fall into the interwebs of your Facebooks or your Pinterests or your YouTubes, there's a lot of mail-to railroading buried inside some of those, especially on Pinterest. I mean, there's guys that spend days looking at pictures on Pinterest, whether it's for prototype or modeling. So there's more stuff that's not considered traditional, let's get in a room and talk about trains. There's a lot of closet modelers or electronic modelers. And I think that is growing it versus the other side where you're seeing declines in those demographics, but you're seeing upside demographics in the other areas.
That's analytical. I think it's growing. I'm just going to go with I think it's exploding, and we're all going to be covered with model railroad goo. See if your analytics has any space for goo, model railroad goo. I don't know what to, I just see it as there's so many avenues. I think you answered the question when you said there's a bunch of guys. How old are you? 34, you said? Hello?
I'm 34.
Yeah. I think there's a bunch of people under the age of 40 that people are we are completely unaware. I think there's a tsunami coming of a whole ton of people under the age of 40 that have been able to get much more out of the hobby than you ever could before. When I was 34, I sure couldn't get this much out of the hobby that I can today. And I see a whole tsunami wave of people coming. And I mean, you just said it there. Like never before could you shop online live in a hobby? You couldn't be in, Split Lip, Wyoming and be shopping at some guy's store in Tillsonburg, Ontario, which basically is Split Lip, Ontario. I mean, it's just fabulous, a new world that we live in that I don't think anybody can actually really get their hands around, their arms around. You look at Tim Morris, his business constantly grows. I've talked to Jim Scoresman, and I don't think he's ever had a down year. It's always growing. Somebody's breathing into their microphone. So if we could stop doing that, that would be freaking awesome. There, the boy. Okay, so all right. So you buy skids of stuff. and I don't think there's a whole lot of people buying pallets worth of stuff. What's another question we can ask them? We're all over the map here, guys. George, you must have 1,000 questions for him.
Okay, I'll throw out a question, because a lot of these things he's buying skids of are these, what everybody gets all excited about is pre-orders and things like that. And, Jason Schron has gone on record saying why that's necessary, but people still get all bent and twisted the fact that they have to pre-order something. So I know that's the model that Rapido uses. I think Bowser uses a pre-order system. Well, are other manufacturers doing more of this right now, or is it just a limited number?
Lorne?
So everybody wants to adopt the pre-order model. Even your AccuRails that shoot plastic, they want to. What happens is the lead time after the pre-order cutoff date and the arrival can be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. So it's how much do you want to pre-order over top. So sometimes I'll pre-order double my pre-orders. Sometimes I'll go 10 times. Sometimes I'll pre-order only 4 or 5 pieces over. But I also am looking at statistical data of previous sales trends, history, and kind of feelings of how product works. So, you're talking about those LRC skids. I only had 1 skid pre-ordered before the deadline. I had 2 skids on spec. Right. I just kept taking pre-orders right up till arrival. Then I had a little bit of leftovers, and then I had a custom run that I did where I did 4 numbers and announced it literally as we were unloading the skid and saying, "Oh yeah, just so you know, I got these 4 numbers that nobody knows about. They're available now too."
Right. These are from you got additional orders from Rapido. You got your own numbers that nobody else could get a hold of. Is that what you're saying? Numbered cars?
Correct.
Yeah, so there was 2 custom runs that Otter Valley did where the flags were faded and the blue was faded, and it was to reflect the state of the cars that have not been rebuilt that are still in service right now.
Okay, and you did that on your own. You arranged that with Rapido Trains.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Ground control to miss. Sorry.
Well, okay. So how do you decide that you're going to go out on a limb and you're going to make your own stuff? Because if it's that good of an idea, why isn't Rapido doing it? Like, how do you have these ideas that you're going to custom make your own cars and have your own numbered cars and that and stuff like that? What is it hey, Tom Jacobs.
So
right.
Sometimes it comes down.
I was just going to say, hey, Tom Jacobs, what's the driver that makes you do this? There's silence. Did I say the wrong thing?
Sometimes it comes down to how I'm seeing. Nope, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right.
I think there's an audio delay.
You know what? He's on a delay. He's gotten delayed. So you know what you need to do, Lauren? You need to refresh your window because we were like way, way off.
That explains a lot.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's why that's why this works best on Chrome. For some reason or other, this particular system works best on Chrome. But we'll edit that part out. So how do you know to decide what is it that makes you decide that you're going to take it upon yourself to order different cars than what Rapido is offering? Like, how did you decide to do that?
So I worked with another friend of mine, and we looked at every car that they manufactured for the LRCs, plus this last offering. We also went through prototypical photos to see what was still left in the blue, and I watched a half a dozen YouTube videos of trains in the Windsor and Montreal corridor, saw the units, said, no one's ever thought about doing a primed or a grind out or a patch out or a fade out. The hell with it. I'm going to do these, and if I land on my face, so what? But it's VIA, and I shouldn't land on my face, so did it. And
for sure.
I got about 20% of the run left, and that's in about 2 months on pure spec. So I'm relatively happy.
Now, obviously, like you said, you guys went out and you saw it was still on the ground right now. But would you have considered doing this when they did the first run, or was it a good idea because the run they've just done is the rebuilt cars and the Canada 150 cars, all the stuff that they're currently running, and it made was that the driving force behind it? Was because it fit with the other cars they were bringing out, so people would probably buy more, or was it just an idea that just popped into your head out of nowhere?
So it wouldn't have fit with the first run because they only had blues at the time.
Right.
And it wouldn't have fit with the second run because it's still the same thing. Via was still on blues. Now with Via having a mix of green and 150s and 40s and blues, now you can have a color assortment and it's prototypical. Those fade outs are pretty recent to, to have the peeled Canada flags or the light blue. There wouldn't have been a market on the second or first run. It had to be now or never because within 6 months to a year, those cards are getting torched.
And you don't
real
think,
life.
And you don't think people would be interested in them once they're gone? Like, won't they still be interested in them? I'm lost, George. Can you explain any of this to me?
Modern modelers like now and today. They don't like going back in the time machine. That's the truth when it comes to certain demographics and young guys. Modern guys want to see what's on the tracks today. They will not buy something they saw 2 years ago. They want to see it as it is today.
Okay.
Period.
All right. So that's something to know. And what is this blues and greens? What are we talking about here, guys?
So Via Rail Canada, which is for anyone, all of our listeners across the globe, Via Rail Canada is Canada's national passenger railway, which is very similar to Amtrak. It's operated by the federal government as a crown corporation. So basically, it's owned by it's a publicly owned company. They've recently been going through a big rebuild program. They started back in 2017 when Canada celebrated its 150th anniversary. And they've been going through a big rebuild program, rebuilding a lot of their old passenger cars, but they haven't done the whole fleet. So in addition to the fact that they were doing rebuilds, there were a whole bunch of them that received special wraps for the 150 celebrations and wraps for different occasions. And there's been some marketing initiatives. So there's like the paint schemes are a huge plethora of just all kinds of stuff right now. And there's even still cars that are in the old blue and gray, which is what they were delivered in. But the blue and gray cars are looking pretty tired. And especially in the past, 4 or 5 years, they've really kind of been letting them go. Like the flags have either come off or they've faded or the blue is faded, like Lorne was saying. So that's what we're talking about is right now. The state of Canada's passenger cars is some of them are excellent and some of them are looking really drab. And it sounds like they're near the end of their lives.
And so people want to buy what they see on the tracks now, but in 2 years there will be stuff that's 2 years old. So is that really a thing? Seriously, that guys, if it's not on the tracks now, they're not that interested in buying it?
Yes. Especially road numbers. I've seen a lot of guys picking through freight cars, and if they can't find a picture, they won't buy the freight car.
Oh, George, are you familiar with any of this?
To a certain degree, but it sounds like it's a lot more prevalent a lot more prevalent on Lorne's end than it is on mine. I model transition era, so all of my stuff is very dated. Transition era, and then like I've got some 80s stuff because who doesn't love the 80s? I definitely see a lot of my friends buying because, being a millennial and everything, a lot of guys, we all grew up and, most of what we grew up with is still in service. Some of it isn't, but a lot of guys are buying the new stuff. Like they're buying the rebuilt engines, they're buying the rebuilt cars that were cut up and changed into something new when we were kids, and now there's something different and they're still in service, right? Via Rail's F40. The AMD F40 passenger locomotives are a good example. I know a lot of guys are buying the rebuilt ones, which were only completed a couple years ago. But yeah, it seems like it's definitely a trend. But it's interesting to hear that it's so skewed in one way from Lorne's perspective, because to me, I wouldn't have guessed that.
No, that's news to me too. But you must sell. That's just one facet. What other kinds of first? So, okay, so you built these, so you must arrange with Jason Tron and he gets the cars painted and everything for you. Is that a Rapido Trains? You deal with them exclusively, I guess. They do exclusive runs just for you.
So the Via cars are the first ones, and we're doing the bus as well, the London Transit bus. And then we're also trying to make sure we have enough demand to do the Trillium short line RS18Us. And that was another regional railroad that went from St. Thomas to Delhi and currently Welland to St. Catharines. So I try to find regional or uniqueness in any time I do a production run that I could add intrinsic value to my company, but also differentiate myself from other hobby shops too.
So I find this to be fascinating because, I mean, you're talking about a very specific area. And are you selling this to people that are just local? I mean, it sounds like what you're talking
all over the world.
Really?
Yeah. I had probably 20 of those VIA sets that George and I were talking about go to Europe. You know, it's uniqueness, it's specialty, it's different. It adds variety, you know. You know, when Amtrak first started up, if you were modeling Amtrak right at transition, their equipment was colorful. When you modeling VIA when it started up, their equipment was colorful. This is another way to add color to a VIA train. It's just, you know, makes it different. It adds value that you have something different and unique, and it's not like it's the same run of the mill production. It actually, you know, it's in its custom run, or it's a limited number, or, you know, Lorne only made 75, or Lorne only made 80, or we only made 40 or 50. You know, it's that kind of different that's, you know, separates that. And sometimes, you know, when you get into a custom model, it'll hold its value or better than the production models will on resale too. And sometimes that comes down as a preference to the buyer too.
Okay, so you just mentioned something about, would you say Trillium and some other short line?
So the Trillium one is that we're working on right now, but I've also done Ontario Southland ones too, and we did a 2 loco set. I've done the London Transit buses, which are going to be coming out in January from Rapido.
All right, who is going to buy, aside from somebody in Southern Ontario, who's going to buy a London Transit bus?
Bus collectors all over the world.
Really? And how do these bus collectors find you? Because they're following Rapido and what they're doing? Is that basically it? I mean, I'm very confused here. We're talking to a guy that doesn't think the hobby's growing, and yet he's selling buses for the London Transit Bus Company all over the world. So, I mean, something ain't adding up here.
So George has known me for a while enough. I'm very one to be very pessimistic on outlook. We as a company, we've always done well. Do I think the hobby's growing? Yes. But do I think it's growing leaps and bounds? No. I'm just trying to differentiate myself when there's so many other hobby shops in Ontario and so many other hobby shops in North America. So I take on these custom runs or exclusives just to kind of, you know, bring a new customer into my tent, you know, show them different services or different products or how we can support you, or, you know what, maybe I pick up other business from it. So it's kind of used as a marketing and a customer retention tool at the same time.
So who's going to be interested in Ontario Southland? What's it called? Ontario what?
Ontario Southland Railway.
Yep. It's the same railway that I'm sure by the time this comes out, we will have broadcast our last chat with Bob Fallowfield, but it's the same railway that Bob Fallowfield works for. Or sorry, I think he did some work for it. So he's with Waterloo Central, but he's done some work on it, or he's been on the OSR as well.
He has? I didn't think he'd been worked on the OSR.
No, he done work for them too. Yeah.
Yep.
What, like
worked on? He's on the train.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit when we interviewed him, but that's in the past now. But
I'm dizzier than a trout in a blender right now.
The only point I'm trying to make is that these short lines and these regionals have a way of like getting in with people. I mean, you know, like a lot of people are interested in the small stuff, like we said on Prototype Posse. I mean, you know, there's regionals and there's very, very well loved regionals and short lines everywhere.
Sure. But I mean, of all the interviews we've ever done, I've never heard the guys at Scale Trains say, okay, we're going to do this little railroad and that little railroad and the next little railroad. And what I'm trying to differentiate here is he talked about something Trillium. I don't even know what that is. I live in Southern Ontario. I have no idea what you're talking about. So, I mean, what I'm trying to figure out here is, you know, who is it that's buying all this? He's doing very localized things. And at the same time, he's got a huge model railroad hobby shop. And at the same time, he's telling me that he doesn't think the hobby's growing. And I mean, none of this is really adding up, because I think, you know, he's buying pallets of stuff that he's selling out of quickly, and he's doing all kinds of special runs. So, I mean, I want to get, like, I understand that Lorne is doing some unique stuff to his area, but he's also selling globally. So, you know,
he's tapped into the market that he realizes people out there want, and kudos to him. You know, he's talked a bunch about research and things like, and he's obviously studies very well what he thinks he can sell. And, it's like, and you talk about, somebody looking at Ontario Southland, there's a lot of people interested in that. You start looking around on some of the Facebook pages. There's a lot of interest in the Ontario Southland. It's kind of like there's a big interest in the Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo. That's a small railroad, but there's people all over the place modeling that stuff, and they love it. So it somebody gets onto it, they like it. It's something they can model. They're going to buy it. When Jason came out with his GMC buses, everybody laughed at him like, "Why are you doing that?" He's selling hundreds and hundreds of these things because people want a good-looking bus to put on a layout, and these guys are, maybe buying 1, 2, or more. And then when you get a specialized one, say, London Transit for his area, or somebody on Edmonton might get an Edmonton Transit one because it's local whole town transit company. That's the people who are buying this stuff.
It's pretty hard to support a 3,500 square foot hobby store on London Transit buses, though. I would imagine. How many of those?
No, that's just one of the things he's selling, though. But he's near London. He knows there's people in the area who would love to have a London Transit bus. He goes, "Hey, I grew up riding that bus when I lived in London. I want one of those."
Yeah, I get that. But there's more to Lorne than London Transit buses. I mean, this is a guy that's tapped into figuring out how to make a living and make a really solid business. So
exactly, and London Transit buses are part of it.
I understand that, but there's a lot bigger part of it too. I mean, like when you're like, that's great. I understand that Canadians are in love with Canadians and Canadians are in love with Canadian stuff and all that stuff and all that. But surely your business can't survive on the sales that you're getting from people in Southern Ontario.
It's not. What I'm trying to get at so think of it this way. Everybody can buy out the Walters catalog. Everybody can buy from Athearn. Everybody can buy from Intermountain. Everybody can have this company. It can have that company. The ability to add something off a different tree that nobody else can get to might encourage that customer to buy the suite of products that everybody has, plus your one-off item. Now you have added value inside of that customer coming to your shop, that customer buying online. It makes another customer come into your tent. Then you can sell them the suite of that every other hobby shop sells, plus you keep pulling off these special items every month or every second month or whatever. And like you're saying, you're right, Lionel. I got a bigger picture. I'm actually looking at private label stuff in the next year. Our own private label stuff that I'd mass produce to the world. So I'm not, there's a bigger picture here. But there's also like Bruce said, I've done Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo stuff exclusively and sold it over the world. I've done Cape Breton. It doesn't have to be in Ontario. I'll do Canadian stuff, but I won't go to American stuff because I'm not an American-based shop. So it's easier for me to survive with Canadian exclusive stuff than trying to sell an American content that's exclusive. Yes, I sell American content, roads, and stuff like that, but yeah, I am a Canadian shop, and I'm proud to be a Canadian business, and I will always try to make a Canadian content product as much as I can.
Right, but obviously that's part of your business. Like you're making unique things that are unique to Canada or Southern Ontario and certain railroads, but at the same time you're doing this in order to. You sound like a pretty sharp guy, and it seems to me like your bigger picture is a lot more. Like with something that always here. How about this, Lorne? Let's try it from this angle. This is, and I don't think I've really talked about this. I've talked about it to George a bit. I don't think I've really talked about it to Bruce very much. What irritates me about being Canadian is that Canadians will hunker down in their shell and act like there's nothing outside the borders of Canada. And so, you obviously are one of the people that have realized, like I did years ago when I started writing for Model Railroader, that there are, in fact, lands outside the boundaries of Canada. And there's a whole great big world out there. So I understand. So so you're selling to the whole world, but at the same time, you're using that thing of what's unique to Canada or what's unique to. Because I just can't believe that a hobby shop as successful as yours is selling exclusively to Canadians. I just don't believe there's enough market.
No, and I mean, like, to be fair to Lorne, like what he was saying before is there's a lot of business internationally, but you got to remember, for every Canadian exclusive unit that Otter Valley sells, they're probably selling 10 of the next Athearn or Atlas release that's an American road name or in some Class 1 road name or like whatever. Like they move just as much of the, I don't want to say generic because it's all cool stuff, but they move just as much of the prime time stuff as they do the small stuff. And I would even argue to say they move more of the prime time stuff, but that facilitates moving the smaller stuff.
Yeah, I would guess that the smaller stuff is more of something that you love to do, not as what you see as your bread and butter.
But there's something else you got to remember too. Take away the Canada part of it for a minute. Railroads like the Ontario Southland and Trillium and Ottawa Central and my end and whatever, they run stuff people want to see. Old Alcos, first gen EMDs. Forget the Canada part for a minute. People are interested in that stuff. So you have people from all over the world who like that kind of stuff seeking it out because it's still in service or it was in service recently. It's examples they can see and that are tangible. So they want it. They want models of it because it's still operating because they can't get it anywhere else. So erase the Canada part for a minute. They just like what they see.
Well, that can't be unique to Canada.
No, that's global though. That's what I'm saying. That's why people all over the world, and primarily in Canada and the States for the sake of argument, but that's why they're into this stuff. That's why they like the unique runs and the smaller batch models, because like they represent something that is more than just a postal code or a country or whatever.
Yeah. No, it's not. I think
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I just think there's a bigger picture here with Lorne. I mean, he's done so well, and he's doing such cool stuff. I think I just see this as, I get what he's saying. I'm happy that everybody likes to wrap themselves in a red and white flag, just like I do. I'm proud to be Canadian, but he just talked about doing his Facebook selling, and I can't believe that he was only selling to people in Canada. Like
I don't think he ever said that.
No, I never did.
said he's selling to people.
I know, but
about selling.
You guys did the same thing that every time I talk to Canadians, they're like, I was asking a question in general. Oh, this is really interesting. He ordered some stuff from Rapido. And the next thing I know, I'm being deluged with all about what this Canadian thing and that Canadian thing is. And I'm like, yeah, that's all great and everything, but let's not kid ourselves here. Without the rest of the world, nobody would be interested in any of this stuff. And there would be no money to make this stuff.
No, I mean, make no mistake. Like we're not saying that we are the be all end all of this or anything else, but I get what you're saying.
Like, we get way off track here. What I was trying to establish was not that Via is the greatest thing that ever walked the face of the earth, or that Rapido is the greatest thing that ever walked the face of the earth. What I was trying to establish, what I was interested in, is the fact that he's gone off and made he's made his own runs of stuff, which I think is really interesting. When you listen to Lorne, he sounds like a very smart businessman, and I think the real story is that he goes off and he has figured out how to make own runs, and he gets in business with the Rapido, and Rapido will make stuff. And where I was headed was more in the general direction of, hey, what else have you made, or what else do you plan to do, and how is it that you discovered how to do this? Because there's a lot of people that would like to sell model railroad stuff, but they're no good at it.
Yes.
So we can start back with the first exclusive thing I ever did. So the first ever exclusive models I did was, I picked up the phone one day and I called Lee English at Bowser and I said, Lee, I want to do this CP number in an Elko, this CN number, this Cape Breton. Okay, Lorne, send me the prototype pictures. We'll chat back on a couple emails. You approve the artwork, sign off. Here's your PO. Done.
Right. So you're dealing with a company like Bowser, which is in Pennsylvania, I believe, right?
Correct, Montroseville. But I mean, it started from Bowser. I've done 4 projects with Atlas. I have other stuff on the works of Atlas. I've done stuff with Intermountain. I have more stuff in the works of Intermountain. I've got good business relationships with the main players, and I'm not afraid of talking capital and talking fairly large capital outlays. I mean, reality with American companies is money talks. If you know how to work business, you know how to make money, they can make money, and you make money, we're all in unison. I mean, that's simple basis. Doesn't matter what industry we're in. If you got the capital, you can make it work.
We're finally getting there. I think I'm going to give myself a pat in the back here because I think I'm pretty good at podcasts and this particular kind of podcast, anyways. Because
to be fair, we never said you weren't.
I know, but you're yeah. But I only got so many. I only got so much patience. You know that, George.
Yes, I tend to wear it thin very fast.
Yeah. The point here is he just said he's talking to Bowser and Atlas and Intermountain. What I want to know is how do you determine, Lorne, how many, when you bought this stuff from Rapido, like what is it how do you figure out when you're going to buy something from Bowser or you're going to buy something from Rapido or Atlas or Intermountain, any of these companies? Like what is it that you can figure out? Like, well, the real interesting story here is that you've created a really successful model railroad shop. So the interesting story is not the Ontario Southland Railroad or the London buses. It's what the real interesting story is how do you manage to figure out what you should buy or how many you should buy? Like when you went to Bowser, how did you figure out, like, was it you were just throwing darts at a board, or are you like, do you have a sense of what people will buy, or do you just say, well, I can sell 6 of them, so I'll buy 100 of them? Like, what is it?
I go off previous sales history data. I look at how many customers I have in my customer base that would be potential buyers. I speak to a couple confidants about what do you think, paint schemes that would be successful or not. Sometimes I'll do a focus group privately that'll be off the record and nobody will know about it. Some of the basic business 101 that I was taught in business school when I got my undergrad and my master's. So I'm not afraid of going outside the norm and challenging myself. Sometimes I come back and I challenge the manufacturer and say, you know what, the number of units you want, no, we're not going to play that number. It's going to be this number. I'm not interested. And sometimes they come back and say, okay, you hit me this number, but if you think you can hit this number, let me know by X time and we can double up the order. And sometimes I've done that.
So what's the biggest thing you've ever ordered that you've taken on yourself?
So last May, we did the Ontario Southland units, 100% on spec. Nobody knew about it. And that was a skid and a half of locomotives that nobody in the world knew we had except Atlas and ESU.
You see that? He bought them from Atlas and ESU. There you go. So how many locomotives are in a skid? And if you don't want to tell me, I understand. You don't have to tell me. But that's
about 400.
Okay. So you go to Atlas and you buy you get them to make you 400 locomotives painted a certain way.
Correct.
Wow. And then see, that's more like what Tangent does. You made the locomotives and then you sold them.
I'm a believer if I'm going to do something that nobody else is going to do, I could care less what my pre-order is. All I care about is making the manufacturer happy and then making sure I have the proper capital outlay to pay the bill. Then I just deal with it when it arrives, and it differentiates myself and it gets the excitement back into my business and the excitement back in my store and my online and product. And next thing you know, George is seeing me post pictures of parcels stacking up to the moon.
See, there you go, George and Bruce. In the full circle. Bruce was talking about how some companies insist they can't survive unless they have pre-orders, and yet here we have a guy that's making the product first, very much the same as Tangent does, and then sells the product. So pre-order is not what's going to save him. What's his name? Lorne.
Thanks, Lionel. Appreciate that.
Lorne is making a product and then selling it, completely different from the way Rapido operates. And
a lot of companies do that. No, and if we think back earlier, Lorne said a lot of companies would like to go the pre-order way because it gives them a better handle on what they're producing. It's the lead time between pre-order shut-off and production that gets people nervous. So you've got some people like the pre-order system, some people won't, and that's the way it is.
And I think the people that go without the pre-order system are people that need to be recognized as people that are pretty freaking sharp businessmen. And I'm interested in this whole thing. I'm more interested in the story of Lorne James and Otter Valley Railroad than the fact that he's making something for Ontario. I mean, like, this is a pretty interesting story. I don't care what. I'm not.
All right, Lion. We'll forget the Ontario Southland because we beat that with a dead horse. I think the point you're getting at is you got to have some skin in the game in this business to make it work. So years ago, one of my longtime friends, and I call him Uncle Rich. He's a wholesaler, one of the most respected ones in the industry. You know what he said to me, Lorne? You can't push from an empty pedal cart if you have no stock. That is the current fundamental problem in the whole entire industry. Everybody wants everybody to pre-order. So when an item comes in, if you didn't pre-order, you don't get it. So now you got to go to a hobby shop like me, or it's like somebody who might have taken extra slack. Does a manufacturer want to have pre-orders? Yes. There's two fundamental reasons. One, they want to set their production materials in the purchasing. Two, they don't want to have any inventory sitting around. And three, some manufacturers use those pre-order numbers to get additional draws in their line of credit to survive the next 6 months while it's in production and tooling. That's why.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Limited capital.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It always comes down to money.
Yeah, I think so. But it's an interesting story. Lorne's just got an interesting story, and somehow I'm not asking the right questions. I wonder how this is going to sound. It's going to sound like Lionel the Angry Podcaster. I just think, it's just, I'm looking at a video here that you have on your page, and
that's the old store, Lionel. That's the old store.
Well, it's on your page. It's on your internet page. It's on your Facebook. It's on your internet page. So that's how I'm looking at it. And, it's just very fascinating that you're doing so well and you're doing all this stuff on your own. And it's like, and you're doing this Facebook selling thing. I mean, that's a great story on its own. I guess it is. Somebody said it's like the shopping network. That's really what it is. It's your own private shopping network. And I mean, you can't ignore the fact that there's that much stock going out of your store. Like, I don't, we'll argue about this for many years, but I see the hobby as growing like crazy because I see the hobby as there's a whole gang of people under the age of 40 that are embracing the hobby like crazy. And you're just walking around a store with a phone and people are buying for 45 minutes and you're selling $6,000 worth of stock. I think that's what you're saying.
I should have bought a lottery ticket that day too, maybe, Lionel. But
why though? Isn't that the whole point of the argument that you're selling to people all over the world? I mean, you have people available all over the world. Like
I might have got lucky on a Saturday and how much moved in that hour, but your point's right. I mean, I'm aggressively going after those customers in that median. And, they're engaged, they're responsive, they're seeing how fast I'm responding in a real time. They're getting answers in a real time, which is, the fundamental thing in this current environment where people want, real time response and such like that. So, yeah, it's captivating that market. And, yeah, you're right. There's a bigger story to me and, where I see the whole industry and my business evolving. Like I said to you, like I have goals of having private label stuff. But I also still continue to want to keep growing my book of work that made my hobby shop what it is today, even more the next day. I mean, when you talked to me the last time, my 3.5-year-old Isabel, she comes to shop with me almost every Saturday. It's going to be her shop to inherit. I already have hopes and goals that my daughter's the third generation because my mom was the first generation with me.
Sure. Yeah, which would be really cool. But that's a long ways off. And I agree. I understand that, okay, because of COVID, you came up with this way of selling. But once life returns to normal, you're not going to stop.
No, I'm not. This will be the new style of selling, and, it'll be more online outlets. I got a 18,000 item catalog now. I'm working on my version 2 website, which will be ultra sleek and dynamic. I'm looking at adding more inventory the next year, more breadth. So, I've got pretty big goals and aspirations, and, whether we're in COVID or not, it hasn't slowed me down, and I have no intentions of slowing down.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Why do you think you have such big goals and aspirations in the model railroad industry? Does it seem that plentiful? Does it seem that exciting? Is it because you're a model railroader first, or is it because the business excites you and the number of people you deal with and the turnover of product? Like, what is it that excites you about this business? Because you seem very, very intense and very excited about having it and doing well.
So my background is I have an undergrad in business and an MBA. I'm also a CA. So you American listeners, that's a CPA for the United States. I'm just aggressively wanting to grow my business, whether I was selling, tic-tac-toes or widgets. In this situation, I sell a product that I love the hobby. I love trains. And I want to grow my business no different than any other business owner in any other industry. And that drives me every day to do more business, to find new avenues, to connect with new suppliers. Last 6 months, I've been learning more to speak more Mandarin so I can talk with China.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How's that going?
I've got 2 connections to different factories that I've been discussing small projects to start with just to get a sample.
You guys should be coming up.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, you guys should be coming up with way better questions because this guy's pretty interesting to talk to. I see, and I'm looking at this video. Do you have earrings or some sort of ear things there in your ears?
Oh, it's Bluetooth, hands-free Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was going to say it looks like it's glued to your ear or something.
Yeah, I have a BlackBerry. I have a keyboard. It's generally on me, so that way I can take work calls, business calls, wife calls, whatever I need to do all the time.
I can't stand those guys when you're in the grocery store and they're walking around talking to themselves.
Are you one of those, Lorne? Are you that guy?
Well, if I'm awake, it's business 24/7, no matter what I'm doing.
Oh, fair enough. The hustle never stops.
Nope.
I'm pissing Lionel off.
No, slowly but surely. It's not you. It's not you. It's Lorne. Because I feel like somehow I've got to learn to talk and buzz talk to get him to tell us the story of how it is that this business grows and how it is that it's exciting for him to run it. Because there's more to this than simply throwing a few boxes on the shelf and waiting for somebody to buy them.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah. So tell me what that is without me having to beat it out of you, for crying out loud. Because all these things, these are exciting things that you're doing. It makes people excited about the hobby when they hear people like you doing this sort of stuff. And it's,
Yeah, I think Lorne is maybe a little different than the average model railroader hobby shop guy because Lorne has got degrees in business administration and that type. Is it business administration?
Yeah, I have an undergrad, BCom, an MBA, and a CA.
Okay, so Lorne has taken the business side of things. He knows how to run a business. Now he's taking that same business approach, which you could apply to selling fruits and vegetables. You could apply to selling car parts, lumber, chickens, ducks, whatever. It's the same business principle. He's taken it to his love of model trains and is applying sound fundamental business skills he's learned to be able to sell model railroad products.
In a business that apparently is dying on the vine and hobby shops are closing left, right, and center, and yet he's got one that's going and it's prosperous. There's more to this story than he simply has a business degree because the root of this story is how much enthusiasm he has and how much enthusiasm his customers have. And whatever the questions are that I got to ask to get the answers, I'm going to keep at it. I feel like Wolf Blitzer on CNN.
I think I can get some of the responses you want to Lionel. So what drives me? What drives me is seeing my customers happy with the service we're providing, whether it's the time and the speed of the product, time and quickly of our parcels. We try to turn all our parcels around within 24 hours. So I like running our business like an Amazon, and George has seen that. Like we don't wait. We don't sit around. We move. So, I have a very young and dynamic staff. I like seeing the enjoyment that customers have when they've got a new model and they come back a week later and they're on the next thing. Part of it, going back to what fundamentally started, I started this business with my parents, but my mom and I were the main drivers from the beginning. My mom has, subsequently passed years back, but the business is still a piece of me with my mom, and that'll forever be with me. And that's a driver in itself. It's like, it makes me want to keep driving and doing better. So that way she's proud of what we built and what we're going to be.
Yeah, I think that's an important point is you're very proud of what you've done. And you're very proud of making your business successful. I think that's a big part of it, too. It's like my friend Stephen Atwell. He's very proud of what he's doing with his dad. And there's plenty of room for, we can certainly have more than, a half a dozen successful hobby shops. It's just it's fun. The thing that I'm sure you understand this, Lorne, but I think the thing that I've come to understand from doing this podcast is, and really, I'm not that angry, folks. I know it sounds like I'm angry, but trust me, I'm not. I'm just.
We would know if you were.
Yeah, probably. I think the point is that you're so enthusiastic about what you're doing here that you have no idea It's like I had this conversation with Tim Morris. I was just listening to the interview I did with Tim Morris. I asked him point blank, I said, do you have any idea what you've done for the hobby? And I don't think he really does because, the conversations, you ask somebody, I interviewed a guy in Erie, Pennsylvania. His name's Mike Hawk. I think I'm saying that wrong, Mike. Is it Mike? His last name is Hauk. And he started building his layout in the late 90s. And he said without being prompted, he said, well, I use this kind of track because it was before Fast Tracks. Like Fast Tracks has become like the Kleenex. It's like Xerox. It's just a name you go to, and people expect to use Fast Tracks. So I think what I'm seeing here is you're building this business, and you're doing all these cool things, and you're, as you take each step, it's really fascinating to see. Like, okay, I get that some of your lines are local stuff, but you're only doing that as more for the fun of it because your buddies are all local. I can't see that you're going, oh my God, if I start making London transit buses, the business will grow by leaps and bounds. That's probably more of a thing that you do because, hey, this is cool. And how many London transit buses do you think you'll make?
600.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I was going to guess 100. How many would you have guessed, George?
300, 400 maybe?
Yeah. How much will they sell for?
They're 60 or 80, depending if it's standard or deluxe.
And the deluxe is the one with the lights, right?
Correct.
Right.
How many would have you guessed, Bruce?
I figure probably 5 to 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then why don't you make a Barry bus too? Then have at it.
'Cause I'm not sure Barry had any decent buses.
So I looked at some other options, though, Lionel. Like I looked at Kitchener. Sometimes you just got to factor in what the manufacturer's minimum is, and it just doesn't make business sense.
All right, why wouldn't you make buses that were in Pittsburgh or St. Louis or Denver or any other number of cities in the United south of the border? Why wouldn't you make those buses as well? Because they would probably sell.
Because I don't have stroke with that company's management. I have some stroke at London Transit. That's why I could do the London bus so easily.
The hell is stroke? Anybody?
Business connections.
Now we're talking in hip. Stroke.
and plus somebody else is probably doing those anyhow.
Well, how would he know that?
Hey, Jason, is anybody doing these?
Well, is that part of the thing? Do you say to Jason, hey, is anybody else doing this? Or you just take this on? Are you and Jason working closely on this? Or are you just, throwing darts at a board or what? Like, why wouldn't you make, as well as you're doing, why wouldn't you make stuff buses that were popular in St. Louis?
Because I'm not a St. Louis dealer.
So your actual physical location you feel has a large impact on the things that you would make.
When you're talking about moving product across the border, it is cheaper to move product in a Buffalo or Port Huron than it is to move in a Fort Erie or a Windsor. Always will be. It's their subsidized freight on the USPS side versus Canada Post. There's no disputing that, Lionel. But when you're talking about making a bus, you need to sell so many buses to the local union, the local management, or the local company. There's no business case for me to sell a bus that it's not within X region of me because I need to sell so many to the local company. A couple of years back, I looked at doing transport trucks with trucks and stuff and Tonkin. If you're going to do a transport truck, it's going to be 500 or 1,000 pieces. So unless you can make connections with the company and their management or their CFO or their marketing department, you're not going to sell the trucks because they're going to need to buy so many just to subsidize the back end of the modelers, just to hit the minimum production. And that's what sometimes it comes down to. Business case decision. Is this the correct business case or is this not correct? And going back to my fundamental training in my undergrad MBA, we had lots of different samples of business case decisions. Sometimes we were looking at cosmetic products. Sometimes we were looking at timber, steel, new production lines. I go back to that fundamental education that I have, and I look at how I can make the connection, or if I have any connections or stroke with that company or that owner or that railroad or that shipping company, then there's an avenue. If I don't have that, there's no business case potentially.
So you're selling a lot of these buses then not to model railroaders. You're selling them to people that are not model railroaders, and that's a big push.
Correct. It's the same thing. I sell transport trucks, and some of the guys had nothing to do with model trains. I got one guy who walked in Saturday, and he's probably bought 1,000 transport trucks off me in my entire business life. And all he buys is transport trucks, 187 transport trucks. That's it.
187th scale, you said?
Yep.
So what was this you were talking about, Fort Erie, and before you got on? And
so if you're gonna make a model and you're gonna sell it in the United States,
yeah,
you cannot survive shipping it in Canada. You will not be able to reach the customers. Americans will not pay the freight on average, and it's not a business case sense. If you're gonna make a product and you're gonna push it in the United States model from Canada, you have to be shipping them at your Detroits, your Port Hurons, your Niagara Falls, your Buffaloes. Because the second you get across the border, the freight's that much cheaper.
Okay, so you're selling stuff, but are you only selling product in Canada?
No, I ship it across the border. But when you're trying to sell something in volumes, like a bus or like a private freight car, if you're trying to sell true volume, and I'm talking thousands of pieces, the business case requires you to ship it on the American side. It always will.
Right.
It always will.
Yeah. So what Lionel, what Lauren's saying is like that's why it doesn't make good business sense to do a smaller niche run of some American thing versus doing the Canadian thing, is because to get it all across the border to the people who will inevitably want it, it will be too expensive.
They're not going to want to pay the price. Period.
No, they're not going to want to pay the price. If you ship it from the Canadian side, you'd have to rig up some kind of like MacGyver situation to get it like in a warehouse on the U.S. side, and maybe then it would work. But for the most part, it wouldn't work from a store based in Canada.
So,
that clear as mud, or?
Lionel's probably questioning how I move product to the United States. Those customers are willing to pay the Canada Post rates. But on average, most customers will not pay those rates. And like George is telling you, I mean, if you use Canada Post or FedEx or Canpar, whatever the company, it's always cheaper to ship it domestically. The second you cross the international border, prices go up. So the business case is if you have another company or another connection or a redistributor in the American side, then you can do it. But when you get into like a St. Louis bus or this bus or that, do I really care about moving 500 buses? Probably not. It's not going to push my needle enough, Lionel. I like doing the Canadian stuff, the unique stuff, because I kind of have fun with it. But at the same time, I'm hoping that customer buys that bus and then puts another $500 in his shopping cart via in-store, online, or the phone, and I pad more money to that day's revenue and that day's profit. That's why I'm doing it. It's to add more value to the orders at checkout or in-store, period.
Ultimately, Lionel, what you were saying before about, having more fun doing the small projects as opposed to doing the business stuff, ultimately what you were saying before is entirely true. Like the small runs of the specific stuff are definitely passion projects, but it goes hand in hand with the business.
Yeah, that's great. So, what are your plans for the future there, Lorne?
So I'm looking at a new building when my lease expires.
Right.
So that's the first thing for the retail. Depending the location we end with, I've kind of got a goal and aspiration of maybe buying a caboose. So we could see how that plays out.
Yeah, I know a place that has a caboose. That didn't seem to work out that well for him.
Yeah, that's a different business case. I'm not going to fall in that trap. Or I'm not going to ask people to fund my business, not through a private equity firm too. So that's another subject. Yeah, and that's a business slight too. But person with an MBA should know how to do business better.
Person with a microphone should make a better podcast than this, but apparently it's not possible.
So possibly that would be the retail side. I'm working on my version 2 website right now, which I hope to have out within a month. The same kind of ground game that people like George have come to know me domestically in Canada, and how much more I can expand internationally, United States and Europe and all over the world. So every day I'm adding new customers to the tent, which makes me happy. It's easier to add new customers, but it's harder to retain customers. So I always try to keep the retention as best as I can. So, making sure that we're getting product in a timely fashion, filling orders efficiently, correcting ourselves when we do make mistakes. Sometimes we make mistakes picking orders, or an item arrives damaged, or we have issues, and trying to get that solved. So, just fundamentally running the business. But I don't oversee the day-to-day operations. So I work out as a full-time CA, as a municipal treasurer. So I'm looking at the big picture. How can I grow my business this quarter, this year, this month? What's my short-term plan? What's my 5-year plan? What's my 10 years? So I have a pretty good idea, and I have a pretty solid network of friends that are, either running publicly traded companies or large private companies or own their own companies. So I have a pretty good solid network base that we talk and we discuss about ideas, trends, talk about, how's today's trade relationships going to impact us, or what's the Bank of Canada's interest rate change going to happen with currencies. So, going back to what Bruce said, fundamentally, everything that I was taught in business school, everything I was taught in practice, everything I was taught in industry, and just bringing that to the forefront.
Yeah, I guess what you just said there, it sounds like a lot of stuff for a small model railroad shop.
But you got to remember, Lionel, my first year of business, I did $30,000 in sales, and now I'm a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah, and so it is primarily your sales in Canada?
A good portion, but I have U.S. customers, I have European customers, so I don't get into segmented sales. I don't look at where it's segmented. I look at how much I'm doing on a daily sales intake, weekly, daily, and I look at my daily parcel intake. So I track all my parcel volume for 5 years. So I know where my trend lines are, and I know where my weak points will be in the calendar year, and I also know when there's anomalies. So, like George said, hey, Lorne got this 3 skids, so this month we shipped an extra 200 parcels, but that's not like a normal X month. It's going to be more like this. So I really try to break it down so that way I can determine, A, how much labor complement I need to have, how much capital I need to push into the company, or how much capital I need to withhold. So I really manage it more or less like an overseeing owner rather than a hands-on owner. I let my staff, who are fundamentally awesome, and I wouldn't be here without them. I let them run the day-to-day shop. We talk about purchasing. I do most of the purchasing myself. I set some of the big pre-order numbers, but I let my staff have their own autonomy, and I found that's been the best thing I ever did.
Yeah, so I guess where I'm lost here is, a lot of people that have model railroad shops started out as model railroaders, and it sounds more like you're running a Ford dealership.
Oh, I'm a model railroader, Lionel. I got a 42 by 36 foot layout in my basement, and I have goals and aspirations. Like, I'm building well into Buffalo, but Otter Valley isn't a hobby. It's a business. I'm not running it as a hobby. I'm running it as a business, and I look at it as a business, not a labor of love. It's a labor of the love that my mother and I had to build it.
Sure.
But it won't be the thing that defines my career. I know I practiced for 6 years in practice. I spent years in industry. I did some teaching. I still practice as a sole practitioner.
Have you heard of the Aurora miniatures and the SD60F they're trying to make?
Yep, I'm familiar with that. I've kind of known about it for a bit.
And
what's your take on that?
Yeah, what's your take on that?
It would not be professional of me to comment.
Okay.
I think there's a business case for that, and I would imagine that him and I'll connect soon to figure out how we want to sell the product through Otter Valley.
So do you do anything with the store that doesn't involve a business case that you just do out of the love of the hobby, or is it pretty much everything has to have a dollar and cent sign attached to it?
So if you're asking if I'm only about the business,
well, no, but I mean, there's a bigger story here. I understand you're proud of yourself, and I'm proud of you for what you've done, but there's a story here about model railroading, not about moving product. And we're not touching on the story of model railroading. All we're touching on is moving product. And it's interesting to people. It's interesting for people to know about, okay, you bought 2.5 skids of LRC cards that VIA ran. Well, there's more to that story than the fact that there's got to be a story to the fact that, man, it's like what makes Jason Schron so popular is that he's excited about it. He bought a Bud car, and he's excited about, he bought a bus and drove it across Canada. I mean, your story sounds like you go to the store and you count the cash and then you go to the bank. And I just don't believe that's you. That just doesn't, I think there's
I'm doing that tomorrow, Lionel. So I can't lie on that one, because tomorrow's the deposit.
Well, you know what? I have a business too. I've been in business my entire adult life since I was 25 years old, and I make bank deposits too. But that's not why I'm in business. I'm not in business to make bank deposits. I'm in business because I like to be self-employed. I don't take orders really well from people. I pretty much learned that early on. So there's a story behind me, and I'm proud of the fact that I've got people that have worked for me. I've got 2 employees that have worked for me for over 30 years. I got employees that have worked for me for 20, 25 years that are retired from me because of the way I run my business. Not that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I take money to the bank. So there's a story here that we're not touching on because, the fact that you make buses or these cars, these people that you talk to, or the fact that you've gone on Facebook to do sales. These are interesting stories. I'm proud of you that you have a business plan. That's great. But what the real story is how you enjoy, or how you manage to, you got a lot of product in that store. And it's probably a fun story to hear about. Do you know Rob Arsenault out in Edmonton? Like, do you deal with him at all?
I send him product almost daily or every second day.
Right. And so, that would be a story too. Anyways, we're running out of time.
Well, does the shop bring me fun? Yes. Do I have fun when I'm in the shop? Yeah. And talking with customers like George, whether he calls up or he sends me an email or he comes in and we just shoot the shit. Yeah, I have fun with that. I'm not going to lie. I like doing the research and finding models that we can try to make business sense. I wanted to do the OSRs. I wanted to do the London buses. I wanted to do the Trillium units. Are those models that I kind of intrinsically want on my layout? Kind of. Just like Jason. I kind of want stuff that, I'm modeling. So I hit that decor. Yeah. Do I have to worry about making sure my business stays on the tracks? Yes. But it doesn't fundamentally drive my direction decision making. What drives my decision making is what I'm doing, keeping my customers happy. Are they happy coming to Otter Valley? So every time I ask some guys, customers, female or male, walking in and say, how are you today? Is there anything you're looking for? And then right when they're ready to check out, is there anything that you didn't see here? Is there anything that you would have liked to see? Or is there something else that you're looking for or you're inquiring about? I always try to go that extra level. So do my staff. Most of my guys in the shop are modelers. My girls, we were going to build a module, a Fremo in the layout before COVID, and we're likely going to build a layout in the new store in the basement. So we have that modelers aspect. One of my girls, she's a fine painter, so she does fine painting and weathering. One of my other girls is interested in wiring and soldering. So we try to bring that modelers and that fun to it. Yeah, you have to get into the minutia of running a business and, the nuts and bolts and making sure, checks balance and we're in the black this month and so on and so forth. But if I wasn't having fun at the shop, I wouldn't be enthusiastic or passionate, right now talking about it.
I would imagine when you did your Facebook sales thing, you probably did that more for fun than to make profit. Like if you'd sold a tenth of what you sold, you probably would have done it. You probably would have had fun doing it anyways.
So we had fun doing it. So going back to it, do I think I got lucky moving that much product in 45 minutes? Without a doubt. But I got my buddy beside me, Lionel, Steve, and him and I are having fun because we're like, hey, what about this model? What about that model? Have you thought about this? What about this? What about that? It was kind of fun just to kind of get out of our normal element to try something. Did it stick? Yeah, it stuck, and it's going to be something that we're going to try weekly. Maybe it'll become, so inundated that people get bored with it. Repetition of things does happen, and it does, have reduced impact as time goes on.
Yeah. Anyways, hey, George, you want to give out the email address?
Sure. If you want to contact us by the medium of email, you can write to us at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modeler with one L, like Lorne. Not two L's, like Valley.
Boom. That's sweet.
You basically handed me that one.
I know. We came up with that one.
Sure, you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Teed it up.
If I hadn't nailed that, I would have been shot.
Oh well, I was pretty impressed. We came up with that by ourselves because it was just fun. And hey, Lorne, if you ever want to buy AML swag and T-shirts and hoodies and hats and mugs and all that stuff, if you go to Midwest Model Railroad, they're in Independence, Missouri, and he just opened up a new shop too. He went from 3,000 square feet to like 9,000 square feet. Like crazy amount of space. I'm telling you, somebody in this hobby, somewhere this hobby's growing. I'm telling you, somewhere this.
You know what I think it is? I think we're starting to see a difference between those people who are running the hobby shops who want to expand and those who don't. Those who are willing to adapt to the market and those who won't.
That's the key right there.
That's the key. That's why shops are, because Steve is expanding. Lorne is going to expand, but some of them are closing. I've seen a couple that are probably going to close around here, but it's because they won't adapt to the market. It isn't because the hobby's not growing. It's because they won't get with the times.
No, they've been doing it for 30 years. This way, why the hell do we have to change?
Progress waits for no one.
Exactly.
I still say the hobby's growing like crazy.
Well, I'm agreeing with you 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the hobby's growing crazy. I think
but those who won't get with it are being left behind.
Yeah, and that's really a different story altogether.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, you can't walk away from the fact that Lorne and his buddy all of a sudden decided, hey, let's try this with the Facebook thing. And the amount of stuff that you sold is really neither here nor there. Because I would imagine if trainworld.com did it, they'd sell more than that. I mean, I'm sure you'll continue to sell quite a bit because it's a unique idea and it makes people excited. It's like Dave Abeley's with his remote operations. It gets people excited. He's going to continue on with his Facebook Live things. So, yeah, if you want to buy model AML T-shirts, hats, hoodies, whatever, you go to MidwestModelRR.com. That's the URL. You go across the navigation bar, and you click on the AML part, and there is a wonderland of AML stuff that you can buy. All sorts of different T-shirts and stuff. And also, those guys...
Our awesome merch.
Our awesome merch, yeah. And then he has a whole pile of stuff on his website. And we have a website, and it's amodelerslife.com. So if you go there, you'll find out all about the podcast, and you can click on it. There's a picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state. And if you click on that picture, boom, you can automatically send an email. You just got to fill in the title and what you want to say, and it will automatically go. And what else? There's a picture of Ron Marsh from Ron's Trains and Thing.
Hi, I'm Ron of Ron's Trains and Things, and if you'd like to see more model railroad tips, tools, and techniques, then be sure and subscribe down below and click that little bell icon so you can catch future videos.
And by the time this airs, it'll be well known that Ron Marsh now is working with Model Railroad News, Tony Cook, the editor there. The two of them have hooked up, and they're working together, and they're making videos down there at Midwest Model Railroad in Independence, Missouri.
That's cool.
I wonder if there's a market for buses in Kansas City. They must have
probably.
They must have had buses in the city.
Should talk to Lorne. Set it up.
Yeah, that's right. What else? I think that's it. I think and there's Patreon channel. If you like this, if you like me arguing, if you like this, where I was arguing with Lorne for an hour and a half, and that's on the free channel, for 16 cents a day, you can go over to join Patreon. And you can get another podcast. You can get one every Tuesday as well. And they double your fun. Plus, there's a virtual chat. There's a virtual chat that we have every Wednesday, which is a lot of fun. All the Patreon members show up on that, or lots of them do. And I think that's just about covers it.
You get to listen to myself, Kaylee, and Spoon talk about locomotives and cars and all that cool stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple of days, you and I are going to do. What are we doing? We're doing a show with Adam Pinellas and Dave Abeley's.
We're doing a show with Adam, Dave, and Spoon.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mega fun show.
Maybe I'll just watch.
Just light the flare and watch it go.
Yeah, I'll just light the flare.
Walk away.
Yeah, that's right. I'll be on the lifeboat. All right.
Give me one of their sandwiches.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah, make some sandwiches or something. Okay, Lorne. At the appropriate time, you're gonna. Do you ever listen to the podcast, Lorne?
I do.
How do you like it?
I fills in my afternoon.
That's a good answer.
I'm going to come down to your store and just irritate the crap out of you. I'm going to bring my little recorder, and I'm going to come to the store. And so are you only there on Saturdays?
Yeah, I generally do Saturdays. Sometimes I'll have my lunch there. My work's 10 minutes from the shop, so sometimes I come and have my lunch there and just check on my stuff.
Okay. How many staff do you have?
I have 3 full-time and I have 5 part-time.
Okay. I don't think I could work for you, Lorne. I think you and I would come to blows pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think the conversation of growing versus non-growing would probably be like, just because we're growing here, Lionel, doesn't mean the whole pie is growing.
Oh, I completely disagree with you. I think this hobby is growing like crazy. I am absolutely convinced of that, and quite proud to say it. And if I'm ever proven wrong, well, so be it. But everybody is. It's like somebody has shone a spotlight on the hobby, and people are finding each other, and they're making connections that they never made before. I think the hobby's absolutely going to explode, and we're all going to be covered in model railroad goo. So anyways, Lorne, at the appropriate moment, you have to say happy rails to you.
All right.
Okay. Have we covered everything, boys?
I think we're good to go. The ship has sailed.
All right. Yeah. We're easing away from the dock. Well, Lorne, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say...
Happy rails to you.
Well, no, he didn't sound very happy there, did he?
You're going to edit this. You want to try that again, Lionel? You want to try that again?
Yeah, well, I'll try it again.
All right.
Okay. Well, Lorne, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say...
Happy rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.